We are so live.
All right, we live again right here at the Sony
You say
Show,
again?
www.phillyhot with two T's
Radio.
com,
Radio.
www.phillyhot.com,
PhillyHotRadio.com.
phillyhotradio.com. Oh, I left the radio out.
Yeah.
And this time I have better company than I had last time.
You just trying to say I'm not good company?
Oh, you're good. You're swift today. You're swift today. We have two guests here in the studio today, and I'm going to allow them from left to right to please introduce yourself, sir.
Is it your left or my left?
Okay, well, that's fine. I am Farid Abdullah, and I am running for City Council at large this year in the primary election. And I'm honored to be a part of Philly Hot Radio and to talk to the people about the issues that we are dealing with in Philadelphia. And also, pleasure to meet Mr. Joe Cox as well.
And Mr. Cox, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Joe Cox. I'm running for City Council at large. I'm running as an independent, so I will not be in the primary. My plan is to help try to make more progressives in Philadelphia as possible. I'm trying to go for those two seats that are traditionally go to Republicans.
And so let's move in the same direction, left to right. I'm going to ask you both the same question, and let's start with you. You mentioned you wanted to run to affect some of the issues here facing the residents of Philadelphia. Tell me what some of those issues that are close to you.
As far as the education system, how we're failing on all times. I'm sorry, on a level that is completely high. Also, the crime. We need criminal justice reform. We also are failing when it comes to economic stability, and especially in the black and brown communities. And these are some of the things that I believe need to be fixed if we're going to move this city in the right direction. So working with the people who are dealing with all of these issues, we need to make sure that resources are available, not just talked about, but make sure that they are available for the people to take hold of.
Now, I think almost anybody running for almost any position would, the issues that you raise are very common among them. They would say pretty much the same thing. What makes you the person to affect change in any of those areas you named?
Well, first and foremost, I am change. Thinking about what I've been through when it comes to education reform. I was a high school dropout, and I also went through the criminal justice system. And I went back and got my diploma. I dropped out in the 10th grade, got my diploma 2013, and now I have my master's degree. And also was able to get an expungement on my record in 2014. But now as a teacher, I see that the schools are suffering because of not just the curriculum, and that's a whole nother issue, working on changing the curriculum, but just making it where as though the kids can feel comfortable with in coming to school where they have modern technology. And we're talking about the inner city schools, and we're talking about where kids don't have books, pens, not feeling comfortable coming back to school. And this is not a hard fix. It's just having the right people in position who has a heart for the people and for these kids. And then when I talk about criminal justice reform, working with entities who will put the money back into these programs. You figure the Philadelphia Eagles stadium and the Philly stadium was paid for by taxpayers, and they're not putting any money back into the communities. And the legislators need to hold them accountable, and also developers who are coming in. So working with these type of individuals, creating programs for before the kids even get into that criminal justice world, putting them with organizations that will be able to steer them in the right direction, and also working with these entities to employ people when they come home from jail. And of course, community stabilization, something that is near and dear to my heart. Gentrification is running rapid.
You must have been there.
We were talking about that.
It's definitely running rampant within city, and people were being moved out of their communities. I'm all about beautifying a community, but do not remove people from areas that they have been their whole lives.
Now, before we go on, I wanna get into some more specifics about each of those issues.
Yes.
But I want to ask you the same thing and give you the same time. What issues motivated you to run that you want to make a part of your platform should you be victorious in your campaign?
Well, I started a nonprofit 2.5 years ago that really motivates me to help people that I feel like aren't getting looked after. I started the PMA Bike Ride, which helps low-income and street citizens.
I'm sorry, name?
The PMA Bike Ride,
PMA.
PMA means positive mental attitude.
Gotcha.
Basically, it's a pizza party for the hungry on the street. I ride around giving out pizza to people that are hungry, but I'm filling their stomachs, but also giving them acknowledgement and connection that they don't really get. It's not just for the homeless, but anybody that's low income, lots of senior citizens. So I'm trying to give them a voice. So there's things like how bad the transportation system is. Why is a millionaire paying the same price as a single mother going halfway across the city to their second job? We need to end transfers. All transfers should be free. We need much better bike infrastructure in our city. Just today, I saw a giant hole in a bike lane that could kill somebody. I called 311. They told me in 3 days they'll fix it. We'll see if that happens. But, I mean, that's something that should be fixed within hours. Somebody hits that, they fly over. Like, maybe the city would start taking that seriously if somebody sued them. I mean, they flip over and they're dead. People aren't taking these issues that are very serious.
And so you're a quality of life focused candidate.
Yes. I think people should have better access to their transportation, be able to get to schools. I think the state of our schools right now is a state of emergency. I mean, the fact that kids are going to school and they can't learn because they're getting sick. They get sent home because they're sick. Schools don't have libraries, asbestos, no heat, no air condition. It's asinine why there should be some sort of state of emergency. The fact that kids aren't going to school being safe. We're setting kids up to end up in jail. In reality, that's how it's just going to keep on going. If they can't go to school and learn, they're just going to end up. It's a trickling system.
I'm going to ask you again about the same question again, but this time I'll start from the right and move to the left. And both of you mentioned education. Both of you described it as a failed system that need to be transformed and reformed. So how do you propose to reform the education system? And then I'll segue over to you and ask you the same thing. How would you propose to fix an ailing school system, sir?
Well, we need to listen to the teachers union and listen to what they're telling us we need to do. I was at their board meeting last week. They were pushing for Black Lives Matter like a whole week full, which is something that we need drastically. I mean, they were talking about how African American kids didn't even know who Harriet Tubman was. That's just crazy. We need to listen to what they're telling us. We need to end the 10-year tax abatement and get some of that money coming back into the school system and go from there.
And so I agree with ending the 10-year tax abatement. But the way to really reform the schools, as I said a little bit ago, is to make sure that money is going directly into the schools. And if that's working against some of these high-end investors and not allowing them to just live tax-free and putting their feet to the fire and saying, listen, why not put $30 million a year, the Eagle Stadium, the Philadelphia organization, and make sure that the money is going directly into the schools and not going through the local government, whereas though the money can be transferred to different hands, making sure that the schools get the money directly to them, and also having someone to enforce or to make sure that these things are happening. I do hear this a lot about the schools. It's a failed system. It's a failed system, and that's the truth. But that's not just in Philadelphia. That's in all of these inner cities where poor people are at. It's not a fair system. So in order to change that, legislators must make sure that they're not taking handouts, and that the money that is supposed to be allocated to the schools, that is going directly there. But also, you need the community to know exactly what's going on. Even with this sugar tax, that money was supposed to go and fixing up the school.
And you did take my next question,
Yeah,
because I was
okay.
going to ask you both.
Yeah.
No, and that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine, because I was going to ask you both about the sugar tax.
Yeah.
Which to just to be honest and open, which I vehemently oppose, but just the idea of it really.
Mhm.
But, tell me about the sugar tax, and then I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you believe that it's a good thing, and if so, how, and what would you do?
I believe that it could have been a great thing for the schools if it was used for the right cause. I believe that if you're taking money or you're taxing certain things to make sure that you're beautifying things that needs to be beautified or things that needs to be reformed, then that could be a good measure. But we know politics is it's a game. So once money start coming in, people are saying, hold on, I need to take this and put this here, take this and put this here. So what it was supposed to go for, it never even reaches that that foundation or that level of idea that it was supposed to go to. So at this point, I am against it, because now it's also hurting poor people, and it's hurting businesses, because if you see ShopRite, one of the ShopRite's closing, a lot of people are hurting because people are going outside of the city to shop. And
I've been doing it
and
ever
it's not
since
just to go to get soda, it's to shop. Once you're there, it's like, okay, why get soda or juice? I might as well shop. So now you're hurting the businesses, because now people are being laid off, and now you're like, okay, so where's all this money going? The school system's still messed up. So who is to hold accountable? It's those who are in position.
Right, and let me ask you a question. What's your stance on the soda tax, and how would you address the issue if you were the decision maker?
So originally I was for it because I never made a firm stance, but I was for it basically because of where the money was going to, because we need to fix their schools and we need pre-K. But one thing, pretty sure I've heard the majority of the money never went there, for one, and listening to the community, nobody wants it. So we need to be listening to the community. If the community says they don't want a sugar tax, then don't give them a sugar tax. And we also need to be like, instead of like taxing the little guy, we need to be taxing the big guy. And the 1% needs to be taxed instead of the person that's struggling to pay their bills.
And I know Jeff Brown of Brown ShopRite, and he's such a good man. And I used to do work with nonprofit organizations, and he was always one of the sponsors. Always, you could always depend on it. So when he says it's hurting business, like some people say, well, that's just a subterfuge, it's your excuse for moving business. But do you find, in your opinion, that the sugar tax is hurting business? Do you believe that? And then I ask you as well.
Do I believe that it's hurting?
That it's hurting businesses?
I believe that it's hurting businesses simply because if you go throughout the community, people say, I'm not shopping in Philadelphia anymore. I'm going to the county to people want to drink soda. I mean, is it good for you? No. But people still drink it. But if people are shopping elsewhere, then of course it's going to hurt it. So I do believe that it is hurting the business, but it's hurting the city more because it's taxing poor people. You're taking the money out of poor people, taxes to pay for something that is not benefiting what it said it would benefit. So it's definitely going to hurt businesses, and it is, and it's also hurting the city.
And how about you? Do you believe that the sugar tax is actually hurting businesses?
Yes, I believe it's hurting business. More so, it's hurting the little guy. But I don't believe it's quite as drastically as some of the titles seem to make it. But it is, I think it's more so affecting it because people, instead of going, if they're going to go somewhere else to get something, they're going to do all their shopping there, like you said. And nobody's going to go 5 miles out of the way just to get soda. You're gonna go there if you're gonna buy soda. You're gonna buy all your other stuff, or at least most of
You're
your
gonna
other
start
stuff.
walking around,
Yeah.
seeing things. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no need to make 2 trips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Crime is a major problem in Philadelphia. It's a major problem in many urban communities and across the United States. But in Philadelphia, it seems to be a pervasive and a growing problem. If elected, how can someone in the position of council at large, how can they impact that issue?
So we already know that crime is very high in Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia, the 5th largest city in the state, highest poverty level, opioid addiction higher than New York and Chicago combined, and we have a high murder rate. Last year, I believe it was at 353 murders, and we see that it continues to happen. So we realize that a lot of these young people who are committing, let's just talk about the killings, who are doing these killings, a lot of them are left without certain opportunities. So in order to really combat that, you have to make sure that you're being transparent with your residents, with your citizens. As a council member, it is my duty to serve, and to serve by making sure that the legislation is favorable for everyone. That is putting programs in the communities, that is working with private entities to bring different trainings and education to the community, and also making sure that jobs are back in the communities. If you look at the communities, you don't see any black-owned businesses really within the communities, and that's another thing that's hurting people, because now people are suffering economically. So as a council member, it is to make sure that people from all walks of life are being treated fairly, and then also working with the police department, building that bridge, which is so divided amongst the community, where there's a lack of trust with the police department and also the community on both sides. I'm already working with certain police officers to figure out a way that we can go into the communities and start talking to the residents, and not just going having prayer meetings and things like that, but actually bringing people from the communities and having open dialogue, so that there could be a trust factor somewhere within that realm. And these, I mean, it's not a quick fix. It's going to take time, but everyone has to come in and put their thoughts to the floor, and making it happen, and making sure that everyone's voices is heard, and not saying, well, this is my way, so this is the best way.
And I'll ask you the same question: how would being council at large, how could you impact the problem of crime in Philadelphia?
I believe the number one way to fix crime is to put money into community programs, and to fix the problem of equity in the city. If people can get the jobs better by making the transportation better, they're going to be happier. They have more money in their pocket. If our schools are doing better, kids will be actually going to school, and they'll have less time to be out in the street. You know, it's crazy how many, there's 350 something people that die in the city. It's almost the same amount of people that die living on the street. If our city did something more to these problems, the equity, I don't believe that we would see quite as many deaths on both sides. The fact that there's that many people dying, living on the street, and being shot, like, we need to declare some, like, emergency. I mean, like, we need to really put money into people that are, like, doing things to give back to the community as much as we can. And the school system, I think, is a huge thing. If people are able to thrive in school, they're gonna be coming to school. Like, just if you go to the board meetings and like hear how bad, like, they don't want to go to school. Like, even the stuff that they're feeding them, like, the kids don't want to stay in school because of how bad it is. If we had a better system, I believe there wouldn't be anywhere near what we have right now. Deaths on both sides of the end.
So both of you seem to agree that there's programming that's necessary. You seem So what you're saying is if people had more programs, and there was more equity, and I assume by equity you mean financial equity, like equity and opportunity. Am I correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, the fact that the transportation is a huge thing. If somebody can get 5 miles further to like more jobs and not have to pay that much money, and versus like somebody else having more opportunity, like if like I think it would be great if anybody that's like making less than 20,000 a year had free SEPTA. Then how much more money would be in their pocket to be able to go to jobs and.
So let me ask you this: when you talk about crime, you talking about crime as a whole? You talking about the killings? Are you talking?
I'm saying crime overall, but but of course the most the most urgent is that which cost of life.
Absolutely. So we know that this is something that is happening nationwide, where young black males are taking each other's lives at an all-time high, and there is a lack of love from each other. As far as I'm going to take a life because I feel like there is nothing for me, and too many times we as leaders may feel like we know exactly what they are going through, but I believe that we have to start opening up our ears to what they are feeling. And when I say they, I'm talking about these young males who are out here killing. Because if you talk to a lot of these young males, they'll tell you, I don't want to be out here. But I feel that I have nothing else. Now, we do know that there is, there are some programs out here. There are different things out here. But how do you get them to leave one thing to go to the next? That is what needs to happen. Making these young people feel as if their lives are valuable. Removing their mindset from the environment that this is all you have and that you can have more. So that comes with programming, education. It comes.
But how would you do that? I mean, because to me, I've once heard it said. He said, "Well, you give somebody a job, then you just got a criminal with a job." if they have a criminal mindset in the beginning, and there are those who say that there are parallels between not living in poverty, living in certain environments, and criminal activity. So, is it just programming? Is it if you just give them better basketball courts and recreation centers? What can we do that's different? Because if you Googled youth programs, Philadelphia has plenty of them.
Yes.
What can we do that's different to affect the change?
I'm sorry.
How many people have access to counselors and therapists? I think that would be like a huge call from the school board and the school the teachers union is more counselors, less cops. I heard a kid witness at the last board meeting saying that how he was frisked going to school and how much he feared to go into the school. What if there was less cops and more counselors? If kids had counselors to go to and could talk to their problems or whatever's going, if they had somebody to talk to, I think things would be. I mean, that's a huge thing. If people need access to therapy and counselors, that's something that we need drastically.
I agree with therapy, but also I don't think that it is about putting them into the rec centers playing basketball and football, because truth be told, a lot of the young people who are out there doing these things are not into the sports. So when I say programming, I'm talking about job training. I'm talking about educational program. I'm talking about reaching them where they are, having conversations with these young people, taking them into different environments and showing them that they have some type of skill within them and enhancing the skill that they have within them. I guarantee you, if you go and talk to any young male on the streets right now, they'll tell you, look, there are certain things that I know I can do, but nobody's giving me the opportunity. And when you get certain people in office and certain leaders who say, listen, I promise or I vow to help you out or help your community out and they don't see it, what happens? You get into this mindset that, you know what, I have to fend for myself. Nobody cares, so this is all I have. So it's like you're putting me in a cage and I have to survive. Nobody else is going to take what I have. So however I got to get it, that's what's going to happen. And that is what is happening to these young males that's out here killing one another. I don't believe that they want to do this, but they feel like they have no choice. So it's going to take entities from all over, people who really care about seeing change. It's not about locking everybody up. It's not about having more police presence. That's not going to change anything. Because, I'll stay in the house. I'll be in the house for a moment. But when you leave, how long are you going to keep the police, the presence of the police? How long are you going to do it? Because eventually, the police are going to say, I got to go home too. So it has to be real decisions being made on building, and we know that we in a systematic, country where it's failure for black and brown. How do we combat that? You combat that by the people who are in position, who are like-minded, whether they are Caucasian, Hispanic, Asian, black, working together to build up the community. And I believe that.
Would you like to add anything to it?
No.
Okay. That was a short, brief answer. If you're running for office, and both of you mentioned quite a few times, you mentioned change. Change was the commonality among you both. And matter of fact, most people in office right now, change is one of the most common words used. So that means something needs to be changed. And if something needs to be changed and it's not being changed, then those who are currently in office, there's something they're not doing. What do you think about those in office right now? What is it they're not doing to implement the changes needed? And I'm going to ask you again both the same thing.
That's a good question.
That's why I get to pay the big bucks. Thanks, Sony.
Listen, I'm not here to knock anyone, but I personally, there are some good people in office personally, but I do believe that there needs to be some fresh ideas. That you're not meant to be in position forever. Eventually, you have to relinquish some of your position,
duties,
your
yes,
title, your duties, and allow someone else, because times have changed. We continue to evolve, and if you really care about your city, your communities, your people as a whole, it is your duty to say, you know what? Maybe what I am doing is not working anymore. It's not saying that I was not effective at one point of a time, but maybe I need to relinquish my duties now and allow someone else with fresh ideas to come in and help. I can still be a part of the solution, but allow someone else to come in. So when I think about the current leadership, I just believe that it's time for a newness, something fresh with more ideas, more relatable to what is going on in today's times, especially with these young people, especially the fact that we're losing jobs, especially the fact that education is at the bottom of the barrel. No one's not saying that you cannot bring someone in and be, a guide for them. But I believe as someone, as myself, will be in office, I'm coming in with something fresh, and I will be able to be relatable to what is going on today.
I believe the problem is that they're not listening. They're not at least they're not listening to the little people, the people that are paying them, not the big guys. They listen to the big guys, and I think that's who they're listening. People like Amazon, who they offered $5 million or something to come here. Those are the people they listen to. They're not listening to the people that are waiting half an hour for a SEPTA bus, or somebody that's taking their kid to the school and they won't go to school. Those are the people that they're not listening to. Those are the people that they need to be listening to if we want a Philadelphia that is for everybody, not the people that make these giant buildings.
Right. Council, you're both running for council at large.
Yes.
For our listeners and some of our viewers, if we're still on camera, if we're still live, but explain the difference between a council person and a council person at large?
So the council member, a district council is someone who actually, I'm not going to say control that district, but they have more say-so over that district. A council at large represents the whole city, but works coincide with the district council. And that's a good thing for someone like myself who loves to be in different places and being able to advocate, bridge the gap for people from different areas of all walks of life. And being able to be that voice of reason with the district council to say, listen, if you can't get this done, I can get this done, and your name will still be on there, but we can do this together and make sure that what you may not see right now, your district may need to have this business here or to have this community clean up. I can get that done. And then also working with state legislators, state representatives, state senators, and then even going above and beyond, working with Congress, you know, and just bringing in a new camaraderie and not being focused on, I have to, you know, make sure that the budget that I have is allocated just to this and only that. So that is something that I will do as a council member at large.
Did you want to add to the distinction between council person and council person at large?
I think he gave the definition of what a council person, the two different are.
Can I just now? I'm not sure if you already know, but I'm a part of DKOD, different kind of
Yes.
Democrat. So as such, we are one of the primary things that they have been battling is the parking authority, trying to get the parking authority back in our hands. And just curious to know, let's say that doesn't get on the calendar by the time y'all get elected. What would you do as one of the elected officials to help get that we want it at least on the calendar so it can at least be heard. And so far, no one in office is allowing that. So we're hitting a lot of major roadblocks on that one.
And that's a great question, because that continues to come up even when I'm out there in the community. Like, well, why is the parking authority, you know, outside of our hands? Why isn't people who are in office putting that to, you know, on the floor? Like, what's going on? What backdoor deals are happening? I mean, we have to be honest. Something is going on that's making that not making that into a reality.
Right.
So as a council member at large, we know, you know, I come in and, you know, it's like, okay, he has no tenure. What is he going to do? Well, what Fareed Abdullah is going to do is start holding people accountable. And if these things are not going to happen, then we're going to have the community come in and say, listen, this is what we want. If you put elected officials' feet to the fire and you invite the community in, it's power in numbers. Who really wants to go against what the community wants when the community is aligned together? The problem is that the city is so divided in different issues. When you have people who are losing homes, losing jobs, children are being murdered, they're not thinking about those type of issues. So therefore, people who are in office already know that people are dealing with so many different things. This is why you can get the sugar tax thing off. This is why you can get the 10-year tax abatement thing off, because people are dealing and they're broken. So it's like, if they're broken, we can keep on prolonging the issues that are really affecting the community. But when you have someone who is in office, whose heart is in the place of making sure that the community is put first, you will galvanize people from all walks of life to see that these things like the parking authority needs to be in the city's control.
Mr. Cox, tell us about your opinion about the parking authority. And
I definitely believe it should be under the city's control, and that's a lot of money that the city could use for lots of different programs. That makes no sense that it's not in the city's control. We should be going around the community. I believe that you guys already have a petition. If not, we should ask more of the community what they think and get their opinion, and possibly go to different council people's right to their door and with the community and tell them what the community wants. If they're right to their door, and tell them that that we need to put the PP, especially if you tell if the community, if you tell them how much money that we could be using for these different our schools, all sorts of different programs for the community, you could get people to come in there and back that.
We've actually did that. We've actually
At City Hall?
We've actually went to Greenlee's, not only house, but in his district, and right in his block.
I saw
literally.
that block party.
Yeah,
thing.
I filmed it, and we
Yeah, he
went
was
to
not
their
very
block,
happy.
and no, he was not very happy. Yeah.
I did hear that he's possibly like not even trying to come back.
Yeah.
They talked about that at Fifth Square last night.
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
So, as a council member at large, you already know there's the 10 district councils, and your words may not be as powerful as the district council. But when these type of issues come up, and we already know that there are a lot, you have to have someone who's a negotiator that's in this position and say, listen, district council, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is what your constituents are saying. These are the issues that they are dealing with. If you want to leave a legacy on your name, if you want to make sure that when you're no longer in office, these are the things that you need to do. Work with your constituent. If you know that the money that will come into this city will help benefit your constituents, this is an issue that you must handle. So you need someone to come in that's going to be able to negotiate with the district council and get them to see the morale side of it, or the morality of everything. What is right? And yes, we already know that politics can be wrong on a lot of different ways.
Sure can it?
Yes, it can be very wrong.
Yes.
But it's not about coming in dictating. It is coming in making sure that you know how to talk and negotiate. It's a democracy. And if you know how to do that, if you know how to get people to see the good in what they're going to do, I believe that we can change this city like that.
What is it about Philadelphia, with all of its immense wealth, its huge tax bases, both from the residents and the businesses? What is it about Philadelphia which it cannot seem to get beyond its place of being the top among major cities, among the top of major cities, with this deep poverty issue? Why is it that it can't address that issue with all of its resources? And again, I'll go, well, let me start from you first, since I always start from, let me start from you, Mr. Cox.
Well, there seems to be a lot of corruption in the city. That's for sure. But I believe it was not very long, within the last year, we found out millions of dollars was just vanished and nobody knew what happened with it. I mean, things like that. How much money? Where could that have gone? How many people? How many thousands of buildings are abandoned, and how many people are living on the street? It doesn't seem like we're looking out for maybe if we looked out for these people, that if they could get a job, and how many people are on the street that could clean up the city? What if we paid those people to pick up all the trash that's all over the city? Gave some of these people jobs to fill all the potholes all throughout the city. The city's a giant pothole. How many people need work? There's tons of work to go around. Doesn't seem where we have those guys' interests. We have the interest of the big giant people, because somebody I'm not positive, but maybe somebody's getting a little bit of money here and there. I mean, there was a council person that just made a bunch of money off a little sneaky deal not that long ago. Seems like a lot of that seems to be happening.
Well, Philly is
I
known.
didn't name anything.
Yeah, Philly is known.
Delaware has a program, something like what you were saying. They partnered up with some in the state, and what it is that they get some of these young people that are coming out of the jails, and part of their release program is to get into rehabilitating some of these abandoned homes, so they get the skills of learning electrical, plumbing, wiring, carpentry, and that would be nice to have that here, because all, like you said, there are a lot of abandoned homes up in here, and we touched on gentrification, so eliminate some of that gentrification. You know, gives them some sort of pride, some sort of dignity, gives them to not want to do recidivism again.
But now, before we get too far, we only got one person to answer that last question.
Uh-oh.
Just to be fair, I wanted to make sure.
Yes.
No, that's fine. I'm already working on a proposal that will start to take a lot of these vacant homes and turn them into transitional homes. And with these transitional homes, I want to put people coming home from jail to get educational training, job training, and also the homeless population. It's called the Homelessness Push. And taking people off the streets and putting them into these transitional homes and get them acclimated back with society, family members, and also job and education training. But the upside of that is the people who are within these transitional homes, we're trying to work with organizations that can put funding in there into these transitional home programs and put a stipend, give them a stipend, and have them go and clean the streets of Philadelphia. So I totally agree with what Joe was talking about. But when we talk about how the city looks because of the poverty and why we cannot get out of our own way, I believe that it is designed to remove poor people out of this city and bring in big business. And the more you bring in big business and you start to take the poor people out of the element, eventually people are going to say, you know what, I can no longer afford to live in this city and I have to go. So if you systematically do this, you have to be strategic. And right now there's a strategic plan to get people who are not with money out of this city. So in order to combat that, you need to have legislation that's going to be favorable for people who are not with money to benefit from what the city has to offer. It's no way in the world that you should allow big businesses to have 10-year tax abatements and not give anything back to the poor communities. This is a problem. This will be one of the first things that I repeal once I get into office. And like I said, being a negotiator, getting other district council members to see that this is something that needs to happen.
Your first 100 days, this is the most common question anybody asks any candidates.
Yeah.
This is the most, so I figure if I don't ask this common question, I try to avoid the common question, but if I don't ask it, people say, he didn't ask, so I'm going to ask it anyway. What did you like to do once elected in your first 100 days in office?
You mean besides hiring me?
Besides hiring Sony as your communications director.
My first 100 days, I definitely want to be acclimated to what's going on in council. I want to learn who's doing what money has been allocated to where, see what's coming in, and then once I am able to see what is happening, then we hit the ground running with putting people into position throughout the city, making sure that different organizations are being funded correctly, working with different state representatives, state senators, and really just conducting meetings with the community. I don't want to have the backdoor meetings. I want to make sure that we're going into the communities and we're having meetings with the people who are out there on the field right now. Just imagine if most of these organizations who exist in the community are getting funding and not being shied away. Think of where we could be at right now with the killings, with the poverty. So making sure that the money is going in the right places, but meeting with the people. So within the first 100 days, I want to make sure that people know that I'm here, meaning my colleagues. They know that I'm here and this is my agenda. These are the things that I'm here to do, and also see exactly what they have done. Because once you're in office, you see a different thing. Right now, you're only going to see what they allow you to see. But once you're in, you're going to see a whole different arena. Different people are going to approach you now. Developers are going to approach you. People who want to stay in power are going to approach you. So you have to make sure that you're putting your foot forward and saying, listen, I'm not here to sell out. I am here to make sure that my community is put first. And when I say community, I'm talking about the city as a whole.
Mr. Cox?
One of the biggest things that I want to push for is to make public bathrooms more equitable in Philadelphia. There's nowhere you can't find a bathroom anywhere in Philadelphia. Everybody in public, anybody, if they're a street citizen, no matter who they are, they should have equitable access to a bathroom. Right now, it's as if our city is asking people to pee on it. I don't know who wants our city to smell like pee. And you go into a Subway, it's going to smell like pee, and people complain about it smelling. What do you expect? There's nowhere to go to the bathroom. I've gone to the bathroom all myself before because there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. And if you find a bathroom, you have to spend money. People shouldn't have to spend money to go to use the bathroom. There's people that don't have money, and that shouldn't be an issue. That's one of the first things that I want to try to get done is to have bathrooms at least in main areas of all parks, different busy intersections.
Can I ask you, because I also nonprofit for the less fortunate. I haven't done a lot because I've been doing this, but I used to speak a lot on the homelessness in Philadelphia, or as I like to put it, the less fortunate. Now, I know Janie Blackwell does a marvelous job with the less fortunate. For her birthday, she actually gives out to the community and Christmas time and other times. But I had the pleasure of being in the bathroom. Now, I went far stall, because I was trying to change my clothes real fast, and that was cool. And I heard the young ladies, they were yelling back and forth, oh, somebody's coming, he's coming. I didn't know who he was, but he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And apparently there was a young lady that was washing up. Another lady came, seen that. They're all less fortunate. She seen that, she went out and told. SEPTA Police does not have any female police officers. So by the time I get out, literally I'm all the way at the back. So as I'm walking towards the front, I can see the gentleman leaning in. So my first response was, oh, there's a man in the bathroom. Everyone's like, no, 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 no. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. He finally seen me. He left out. I took some pictures. I put it on Twitter. I tagged SEPTA. Just trying to figure out why was he in the bathroom. But apparently because his thing was there was a young lady that went out and said that there was a fight, and there wasn't. The one was just washing up. However it went, I found out there are no female police officers for SEPTA. So I said that that's not kind of good because, granted, I'm not homeless. And I'm in the right state of mind. So I'm watching this man, and when I'm speaking to these ladies, they're literally telling me on a good day, they come into the bathroom. So my first response was like, yo, that's like sexual assault. This is how you get these things going and stuff. So I literally took
Especially
it to...
with the people that, a lot of those people that have a lot of mental issues
Yeah,
that they
they
really need to be getting help with. People need to have some sort of therapists, counselors coming to them, not expecting. The city, I think, a lot of times expects them to go and look for the
and
help.
go to that.
We need to be sending
But they don't
people
know
to
where
people.
to go.
We need to be sending people to the community, to the subways, to the alleyways, to the actual community, people that are living on the street in low-income areas. That people need to get their mental health, they need that help. And they're not going to come and go be looking for it. They don't think anybody cares about them. Is a huge thing. Yeah.
But I only reason why I'm asking is because, like I said, Janie Blackwell does a nice, and there's more that needs to be done. I just want to know, what are y'all planning on doing? Granted to mental, minus the mental because they don't know. But what are y'all planning on doing for, especially some of these ladies like that one?
So the mental illness is also part of my platform. That's a lot of the reasons why we see a lot of killings today also.
I agree, yeah.
There's a lot of trauma issues. And when it comes to the homeless population with the mental illness, because people tend to, and I would say, tend to look down upon the homeless population and not see them as someone who is of society, it's like, oh well, let them go. I mean, if you look in Philadelphia and you see, I mean, to see, I won't even call them homeless, less fortunate human beings who are sleeping on churches, sleeping, you know, on bus stops. No one never thinks to go out there and ask what is going on. Because as a council member, yeah, we know that a council member can't do everything. This is going to take, you know, organizations, it's going to take money, it's going to take people just having love for humanity. But as a council member, these are things that I will do, is push the agenda of mental illness as it affects so many different demographics of people: homeless, young people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter. But there definitely needs to be money put into programs, into counselors that will go to the communities where you see these populations of people, and talking to them and trying to get them, like I said, with these transitional homes, to come into these homes and get reacclimated with society.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Mr. Cox?
Well, I believe we need to put much more money into our food sharing organizations, sending people to the people, not asking them to come to them. We need to put more money into housing initiatives to get people off the street and into housing, establishing rent control, and working on the good cause legislation that was just passed into law on Tuesday. But we need to really put more, get the organizations that are already formed like more money so that they can go to people specifically, and more money. Like the counselors and therapy is definitely is one of the biggest problems in America, and people, there's a stigma to go to getting help. So if there is help available, which a lot of people don't know if there is help, but they're afraid to go. Like people they think that there's a fear that they're going to get looked down upon because they're not as good by getting help. It's a toxic masculinity, right, essentially.
So, as a candidate, you're essentially applying for a job.
Yes.
And so I guess you can consider interviews as job interviews. So I'm going to ask you, as a potential potential employee of the municipality of Philadelphia, what are your strong points? Tell me one thing that if I had to ask you one thing, I'm sure you have many strong points, but if I had to ask you, what is your strongest point? What is the strongest attribute you have that would make you a viable candidate for council at large? And then tell me also this, part B of that same question. What, if anything, would you consider a weakness? And I'm going to ask you again both of them. What is your strongest point, the thing that will make you, that you believe will most make you a viable candidate? And what weaknesses, what weakness would you have that you acknowledge that you would work on once you assume your office?
Yes. I think one of my strongest attributes is being relatable, being transparent, being someone who can reach across the aisle, no matter the age, gender, or race. That is something that I pride myself on, is being able to adapt in any situation. I can go into the community and relate to the common man, the common woman. I can go into a business meeting with a suit on and articulate just as well as anyone else. We could talk about education. We could talk about politics. We could talk about anything, and I can relate to anyone. I think that one of my weakest points is that I care too much, and I think that in some instances that could be a downfall because I'm very in love with loving people, and no matter what a person says or does that may be harmful, I find myself still willing to serve. So some people could say that, if I read that is, you can't be so sensitive. But that is just who I am.
Mr. Cox?
I'd say my greatest attribute would be the passion that I have when I see something I really I believe in silence is violence, and I want to I live by be the change. So I have a positive aura. People just feel like they come up to me all the time while I'm all throughout the city. People just come up to me, and I don't know where it is, but I'm trying to use that positive energy that I have for good, and I definitely have a lot of passion in that I'm trying to use for good.
And your weakness?
My weakness, I would say, I maybe too prideful sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, that was my last question. I really appreciate it, and thank you both for coming in. Good luck on the campaign trail, and you have to come again so we can ask you some more of these questions. But I'm going to ask you one more question. What did you think about the interview today? What did it
Honestly,
Do you honestly believe you're going to get the job?
Yes,
I'm just saying.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that I will win. I really do. I believe that it's definitely in my calling. But I definitely appreciated the interview. It was like just having open dialogue. It wasn't any, any
Friction.
sarcasm
Yeah.
or anything like
Go
that.
back
So
and forth.
I will definitely come back, and once again, appreciate you guys, and also Joe for opening my eyes to some things, and look forward to seeing him on the campaign trail as well.
Mr. Cox?
We'll definitely see each other, I'm sure. I appreciate you guys having me. I enjoyed the experience. I'll definitely come back.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you both.
Thank
Good
you.
luck on the campaign trail, and until we meet again.
Yeah.
You're welcome.